Eighth grade, we're in week 9, and we're talking about atoms this week. Today we'll be talking about isotopes. For our learning target, students will be able to explain what an isotope is and how they differ from each other. Is this a creature? A space alien? It may look alien, but the sketch is actually just a scientist wearing a special suit to protect himself from harmful radiation. The scientist is working with radioactive chemicals called isotopes. Now, keep in mind, not all isotopes are radioactive, but many of them are. To understand why, you first need to know what isotopes are. So, what are isotopes? All atoms of the same element have the same number of protons, but some may have different numbers of neutrons. For example, all carbon atoms have 6 protons, and most have 6 neutrons as well. But some carbon atoms have 7 or 8 neutrons instead of the usual 6. Atoms of the same element that differ in their numbers of neutrons are called isotopes. Many isotopes occur naturally. Usually, 1 or 2 isotopes of an element are the most stable and common. Different isotopes of an element generally have the same physical and chemical properties. That's because they have the same number of protons and electrons. Hydrogen is an example of an element that has isotopes. 3 isotopes of hydrogen are modeled here. Most hydrogen atoms have just 1 proton and 1 electron. They don't have a neutron. These atoms are just called hydrogen. Some hydrogen atoms have 1 neutron as well. These atoms are called the isotope named deuterium. Other hydrogen atoms have 2 neutrons. These atoms are the isotope named tritium. So, a quick question for you. The mass number of an atom is the sum of its protons and neutrons. What is the mass number of each isotope of hydrogen shown above? Do a little quick math. What would the mass number be for each one of those isotopes? Drum roll, please. And the answer is hydrogen has a mass number of 1, deuterium has a mass number of 2, and tritium has a mass number of 3. For most elements other than hydrogen, isotopes are named for their mass number. For example, carbon atoms with the usual 6 neutrons have a mass number of 12. 6 protons plus 6 neutrons equals 12. So they are called carbon-12, as you see on the left. Carbon atoms with 7 neutrons have an atomic mass of 13. That's 6 protons and 7 neutrons. They're in the middle. These atoms are the isotope called carbon-13. Some carbon atoms have 8 neutrons. What is the name of this isotope of carbon? Carbon atoms with 8 neutrons have an atomic mass of 14. 6 protons and 8 neutrons equals 14. So this isotope of carbon is named carbon-14. Atoms need a certain ratio of neutrons to protons to have a stable nucleus. Having too many or too few neutrons relative to protons results in an unstable or radioactive nucleus that will sooner or later break down to a more stable form. This process is called radioactive decay. Many isotopes have radioactive nuclei, and these isotopes are referred to as radioisotopes. When they decay, they release particles that may be harmful. This is why radioactive isotopes are dangerous and why working with them requires special suits for protection. The isotope of carbon-14 is an example of a radioisotope. In contrast, the carbon isotopes called carbon-12 and carbon-13 are stable. So, in summary, atoms of the same element that differ in their numbers of neutrons are called isotopes. Different isotopes of an element generally have the same physical and chemical properties because they have the same number of protons and electrons. Most hydrogen atoms lack a neutron and are just called hydrogen. Hydrogen atoms with one neutron are the isotope known as deuterium, and those with two neutrons are the isotope named tritium. For most elements other than hydrogen, isotopes are named for their mass number, which is the number of protons plus neutrons. For example, carbon with a mass number of 14 is called carbon-14. Atoms need a certain ratio of neutrons to protons to have a stable nucleus. If they have too many or too few neutrons relative to protons, they are radioactive and will decay to more stable forms. Isotopes with radioactive nuclei are called radioisotopes. So, are you able to explain what an isotope is and how they differ from each other? If you're still not sure, feel free to go back, check the video, and then move on to the assignments. If you've got it, go ahead and move on to the assignments. We'll see you later. Bye now.